All right.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, Marcus is my guest today, and he was in the chat in my live presentation the other day, and a lot of people said, you should chat to Marcus.
Mm.
So here we are, chatting. Marcus, tell us all about yourself.
So I'm a 16-year-old um, health coach. I do some health coaching through Instagram, post on YouTube as well. Have a school community, which I do that in. Um, I'm well known in the raw primal space, if you want to call it that. And yeah, I just like to talk to Dr. K. I thought it would be interesting. And a lot of people in the chat were saying, you know, you should talk to him because he needs to get more like younger audience. And that's kind of like my audience. So yeah.
Awesome. Hmm. Yeah, I need to get more audience of all ages. The reason
Mm,
I don't get the audience that I think I probably otherwise would get is because basically the main platform that I do my videos on is YouTube, and
mm,
they have an algorithm that decides who they're going to put forward and who they're not based on a number of apocryphal hidden things and some of the things that are less hidden. And it seems I don't tick all the right boxes for them, and so I get shadow banned to hell, actually. So yes, young people very welcome.
unfortunate.
Yeah, young people very welcome. Older people just as welcome. And I will support any young person who says anything remotely sensible and try and help them correct anything that they're saying that I think might not be. Sometimes it works, sometimes fail. Hey, Joey. Yeah. Anyway, that was a story from another day. All right. So, health coaching. What sort of health coaching?
Um, just overall health coaching, helping men, fix their confidence, their low energy, their bad hormonal health, um, improve their looks, health overall, and just make them feel better about themselves, basically.
All right. Okay. Not to be rude, but you're 16 years of age.
Mm,
Tell us about
yeah,
where you get any sort of knowledge to do this from. I'm
yeah.
not saying you don't
So
have any. I'm just saying, wow, where do you get that from?
no, understandable. So
Hmm.
well, like it started from experience, just me testing out my own how my own body responds to different foods, and then I actually dived into a little bit of biochemistry, a little bit of like kind of respiratory pathways, and the same time just overall pathology and a bit of biophysics, quantum biology as well, and then kind of just picked up enough information that I feel confident to be able to help people improve themselves. I'm not putting myself out there as some kind of expert or some kind of scientist, but I have been able to help people improve their health in many different ways.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
Cool. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess one of the obvious ones. Let's go straight to it. Why not? Let's just dive straight in. Mainly, people were saying I should talk to you because they imagined that you and I would probably butt heads at least a little bit regarding raw versus cooked in terms of meat. And I think that's a very interesting topic. So why don't you give us your take on it, and then we'll see if there are things that we need to discuss further on that.
yeah. So I think that raw meat in general is superior to cooked meat in the majority of cases because of the toxin load and at the same time because of the nutrient content, because there is shown whether it's considered significant or not, there is a shown nutrient loss from cooking meat, depending on the temperature, of course. We're looking at cooking to around 72 degrees Celsius, which is about well done. You lose between like on average between 20, that's a broad range, but from what I've seen, it can be anywhere between 20 to up to 100% of the B vitamins, the water soluble vitamins, when you cook it to well done, and whether that's from actual heat denaturation, um, denaturing, or just water loss is up for debate. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's my take on it. And also from my own experience, it feels a lot better in my digestion. I don't like feel it sitting there for a while when I eat raw meat, but I do with cooked meat. Um, yeah, it just feels a lot more comfortable. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Well, I mean, for what it's worth, my opinion is that it doesn't matter a jot whether you
Sure.
have your meat raw or whether you have it cooked to some degree or whether you have it cooked even well done.
Mm.
The reason I say that is through my experience, which I've been 90% upwards carnivore for the vast majority of time for close to as long as you've been alive.
Yeah.
So, I've got some experience in this field as well. And I can tell you that for over a decade, I consumed nothing but well done meat because I couldn't
Mm.
bear it was an instinctual thing. And I think instincts are quite good around such things. But over
Sure.
that period of time, I could not bear the thought of, the sight of, the smell of, or the taste of raw meat.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I ate for 10 years was well done. So
Okay.
if what you were saying there is correct and that 100% of the nutrient was being lost in that way, wouldn't I have experienced some kind of problem within a decade, 10 years or so?
Yeah, you think so, but
You would.
like from the study I've seen, it's only B1
Yeah.
is shown to be 100% gone in this particular study.
Mm.
It could be different in other cases, but I don't think you can not like I don't think you can't have no issues by eating, cooked meat. I just think for the majority of people, they say they feel better eating raw meat, and I think it's probably like it's probably the case that it is better for humans, but I think you can definitely live by only eating cooked meat. I mean, case study to case study, that's obvious.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I just think that, well, the concern for me wouldn't necessarily be the nutrient loss because, um, you can see that people survive well doing, 10, 20 years cooked carnivore, but the actual like advanced glycation end products on the meat. And I understand that most of them aren't absorbed. A lot of them are destroyed by stomach acid and just store in the gut. But I've seen that between 10 and 30% of oral AGEs get absorbed. And then, that's not the same as endogenous glycation. I understand that as well, that it's not bound to your tissues necessarily. So it's not actually causing the same kind of damage. But um, they are still toxins if I'm not wrong. Like it is still contributing to some sort of aging.
Mm.
And
Well, I mean, yeah.
the load the
Go
load
on.
that you get, I've calculated this, the approximate load that you get from eating a kilo of cooked meat a day would be about 4 times the endogenous production per day.
Mm. So a couple of points on that. I mean, the last point first would be
Mm.
okay. If that were correct and you were taking in 4 times the endogenous production, are there any pathways by which the body can detox that without it being a problem?
Yeah, you can detoxify it, I'm sure. Yeah, I know that
Cool.
you can.
And secondly, the term toxin, you say, well,
It's a value judgment.
it,
Yeah.
it is, and also the thing that makes any toxin is the dose as
Mm.
that relates to the circumstances of that person at that time in that context.
Yeah.
So I can list a couple of things for you that are absolutely toxic under certain circumstances: water,
Mm.
oxygen.
Yeah.
So to say something is a toxin, period, perhaps not very useful in
Okay,
terms
fair
of, yeah.
enough. Fair enough.
Mm,
Yeah.
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 The other argument you can throw around, and I'm not saying I agree with it or I don't, I'm just saying this is an argument that people throw around.
Mm.
There is evidence that human beings and our forebears before we were fully human have been using controlled fires to cook meat for around about 1 million years.
Mm.
Maybe
Yeah,
there are some adaptations to that.
sure.
Maybe there was
Yeah.
a benefit in it. Maybe that we started doing that in the first place for some reason. Don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, there could be multiple reasons for that, to access different parts of the animal that we couldn't otherwise because we didn't have the, right tools to do so. For example, getting to the brain or the bone marrow. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible that there was some adaptation from that. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
I can
So
grant that.
there is that. At the end of the day, when we're talking about any aspect of hard health outcome over any period of time in human beings, the exact amount of evidence that exists in any study anywhere is none. None anywhere. It's all theology. It's all ridiculous theology. Most of it's bought and paid for. Most of
Mm,
it is not even pseudoscientific. It's anti-scientific in its
yeah,
nature. That's why these debates that people have about nutrition go on ad infinitum. Because you see, if the science were in, if the answer was with us, we'd have the answer.
yeah,
There'd be nothing to debate anymore.
yeah.
There is still some stuff to. I mean, there are still people running around saying the ideal diet for a human being is vegan. Well,
Yeah.
we know
While they take
anyone.
multiple
Yeah,
supplements.
yeah. I mean, anyone that's got more than three working brain cells knows that that's not correct, and
Yeah, of course.
it's not because of nutrition science that we know that's not correct. It's basic, obvious common sense as to why that's not correct.
Yeah.
That said, tell us a bit more about yourself in terms of your own dietary habits. Do you consume cooked meat at all, or is it all
Yeah, I do eat cooked meat actually. Most of my diet is raw, I would say. Probably 80% of it is raw. And then I'll have, the odd like blue rare steak. If I'm not feeling like eating cold meat, which I think is, probably intuitive because of either just my upbringing, eating only cooked meat, or a fresh kill, a fresh hunt, right? Whatever it is, I think warm meat is kind of a lot nicer than cooked than
raw?
cold meat. So yeah, I eat mostly raw meat, some cooked meat. I usually the cooked meat I eat is whether I'm eating like something with a lot of sinew in it, which I know is going to be like not very bioavailable because of the collagen, or some skin on it. Like for example, if I'm eating chicken or if I'm eating some fish skin. But and then I also have some raw dairy, which I want to later hear your opinion on. I have
Mm.
some like raw milk, like maybe half a liter a day on average, and then a little bit of raw cheese and a little bit of raw butter. Actually, I haven't been able to get raw butter recently, but just grass-fed butter, pasteurized. So that's kind of what my diet is like. And then um, I used to consume fruits, but I find that I feel a lot better without it. So I stopped doing that, and I did like experience a lot of skin issues from that as well. Um, whether that's from pesticides or the sugar alone or the trace amount of plant toxins is whatever, but it did give me some kind of skin issues. So
All right. Just out of interest, what part of the world are you in?
Australia, Sydney.
Mm. Okay, cool. All right. So at present, mostly raw, a bit of lightly seared. It sounds like steak from time to time or whatever.
Yeah.
Fruit was a part of your diet, now it's not. What about other plant materials, other carbohydrates and stuff? What's the deal there for you?
No, that's all that I eat. I only eat meat, sometimes eggs, but rarely,
Mhm.
and dairy, mostly raw dairy.
Okay. Do you get much pushback from people that know much better than you about what you should be eating?
You mean like my parents or like teachers
Parents,
or?
friends, family, teachers, whoever.
Um, well, I'm not in school anymore, but when I was, I would be in food tech and I would be, having a debate about heart disease and saturated fat with my teacher, and it would be like quite frustrating because I could just see that she didn't know what she was talking about really, but I can't really win an argument, win over the teacher when it's a food tech teacher. My parents, not so much anymore because I've kind of given them the impression that I know what I'm talking about in a way, at least compared to them, compared to their understanding of it.
Mm.
Um, my friends actually kind of like leaning towards my side, like they try it. Like my cousin who I barely see, he the other day he sent me a video of him just eating a raw steak in the gut in the wherever, just where he was sitting somewhere outside, just eating raw steak, and I was like, yo, that's cool, because he's been watching my videos,
Mm.
and then he just keeps asking me about different things like steak tartare, making biltong or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. A lot of my friends uh kind of try it, like they kind of think that I'm right about it, but they don't really like dig into it a lot. They don't really commit to it that much. So yeah, and
All right.
yeah.
And one of the big frustrations I have, and I guess this discussion that I'm having with you today should help to have some impact over that, is that
Mm,
I will come online and I will say something, X, Y, or Z,
yeah.
and then I hear somebody a few days later repeating that back to me, or indeed saying to somebody else like you, this is what he's going to say because this is what he said. And they completely change what I said into something completely different.
Oh,
For example, I get the impression, rightly or wrongly, that what was said to you was this guy is going to rag on you for eating raw meat, or he's going to
about you?
disagree. Yeah,
About
about
you?
me. Yeah.
No, no, no.
Okay.
I mean, the only person I talked to about you has been Face IQ,
Right.
and he kind of just said that um he kind of just said that he doesn't really care either way. I think that's what he just said.
Right.
So
Okay. Well, that's an accurate reflection then. But
yeah.
most people would take something like me saying you don't have to eat raw meat,
Mm,
and they will change that into he said you shouldn't eat raw meat,
yeah.
and that's completely different from what I said. What I said is I really don't think it matters.
Mm,
There is absolutely no evidence that I've seen, because it does not exist, that eating cooked meat is problematic in any way long term, that it leads to any kind of deficiency of
yeah.
nutrient in any way, or that it's connected in any way with any kind of deleterious health outcome over any period of time.
Mm,
There's also no evidence to the contrary,
yeah.
because the totality of evidence around any hard health outcome in humans over any period of time as it relates to any aspect of nutrition is none still.
Yeah.
The science does not exist. It's
Uh,
all theology still. So,
especially so when you're talking about long-term outcomes of carnivore dieters.
yeah.
There's no way to actually know anything about that really.
Well,
It's
it's
all
it's it's
speculation.
it's yeah, it is. It's pretty tough when the most recent re-emergence of carnivore diet eating as a thing that any number of people are doing. It's really only, well, 10 years or less
Mm,
that any decent number of people have been doing that and talking about it.
yeah,
I mean, we've been doing it for millions of years. We
of
stopped doing it
course.
about 11, 12,000 years ago at the agrarian revolution because some smart cookie said, hey, instead of chasing these mammoths around the place, why don't we plant grass and eat the seeds of that instead? Isn't that a good idea? Oh, while we're at it, let's domesticate these animals that can pull plows and things for us. And while we've got them here, let's drink their milk. So that's a great segue to the milk.
Okay,
Um,
yeah,
you wanted my view on raw milk, and I don't think there's any problem with it for most people. There are some people who genuinely react poorly to milk, even raw milk,
yeah,
and those people should avoid it.
yeah,
I'm not one of those people. I drink raw milk. I mean, I don't know if you know, but my partner and I bought a farm about 15, 16 months ago, whatever it was.
okay.
Because somebody said, hey, buy a farm. Yeah, it'll be awesome. You can be independent and live off grid and stuff. It'll be great. Buy a farm. And I said, geez, are you kidding? Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
Oh no.
We had two biblical level 200-year floods, two in
What?
2 weeks. So either there's something wrong with their math, or these are floods that happen more often than once every 200 years. Either that, or we're now safe for the next 400 years before the next one. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But we were flooded massively. We were smashed. There was mayhem and destruction around the place.
Oh no.
We've had one or two animal health issues that we're just learning about because we're very new to this and how to deal with it and what to do. The added, I'm not going to say difficulty, but the added interest in all of that is that we want to do it as organically as possible. We want to have the least amount of manufactured treatments, chemicals, whatever. We want to deal with parasites naturally as much as is possible. Okay, if we've got an issue, we've got to treat, but we're trying to sort of avoid it in the first place by strip grazing, moving animals, etc. That becomes more difficult, of course, when you lose several hectares to a flood that just gets destroyed.
Yeah.
And you can't insure land or many of your other things, apparently. Insurance companies are not good faith actors. Can you believe it?
I'm not surprised.
Anyway, that's for another day. So, we did that for some reason. I don't know why. But we have goats here and sheep that we milk.
Okay, cool.
Bovine, we do have bovines here, but they're beef animals. So our milk comes from, they're actually low lines.
Okay.
Which is quite cool because they're like, I mean, the body size is just like a normal Angus. And they look like a normal Angus until you get to the legs, and they just got little short, stumpy legs, and they only come up to about this tall at adult height. So they're like dwarf Angus.
That's funny.
And they're quiet and temperament, and well, until you quarter them to try and do something like treat them with something, or shave dags off the tail or whatever. They don't like that sort of thing, but pretty much they're pretty quiet, and you can just walk up to them and pat them on the nose and all of that. That's all good. But so our milk comes from sheep and from goats. Most of the milk I drink is goat milk, which is, I think, quite pleasant. A lot of people say, isn't it a bit goaty? No, it just tastes like milk, and that's all raw. Well, I say raw, but most of the milk I actually consume is when I drink coffee. I know, recreational drug taking. And so I would put some milk in coffee, but of course that's probably more than 70 degrees C, so it probably actually does get nuked in that way. I have been known to drink it, out of the fridge, out of the bottle, put some in a glass, drink it that way, maybe with some chocolate in it. Recreational drug taking. I know. I've never said I'm 100% carnivore, by the way. A lot of people say, "Oh, hand your card in." Well,
that's one thing that
never said I was 100%.
I saw in your chat when you had a mug or something, and I was wondering, is that coffee? And then someone said, he's an admitted caffeine addict, but he doesn't say that it's optimal for.
Yeah, not just caffeine. I'm addicted to all sorts of things. but that's for another day. This guy, on the other hand, he could tell you all about it.
Who is this guy?
This guy is Yellow Ted. Haven't you met Yellow Ted before?
No.
This is my co-conspirator. He's older than I am.
Wow.
He was given to me at birth by a late aunt, and he's been with me the whole time ever since.
Oh, how nice.
So if you want any secrets about me, this is the guy to ask, and he'll probably tell you because he loves the limelight, frankly.
I'll grab his number after then.
Well, also, if you want to follow him, you can go to the X platform. So long as in the communist state of Australia, Stan, you can prove you're 16 or over 18 or whatever it is. So you probably have to wait a couple of years.
No, it's 16. It's 16.
Oh, there you go. Well, you're okay then, so long as you can prove it, apparently. Because, of course, that's going to stop people that want to get in anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't been asked to prove it in any way, which is surprising.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. So anyway, you go to X and you punch in at HRH_Ted, and his name is King Edward Yellow Ted. He's the king of the bears, and he's also known as Darth Correctus. Everything he says is Darth Correctus. Everything he says is correct, of course, and scientific to the extreme. However, a lot of people who don't come from New Zealand and Australia don't really get it with his language, because you know how people from New Zealand and Australia, every second word, F this, see that, all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Ted's a shocker.
Okay.
I keep telling him he should probably tone it down. He won't have it. He's his own man. A bear.
Right,
He's his own bear.
right. Okay.
He does his own thing. I can't have any impact over him, really.
Mm,
But if people want to follow Ted, they can do that. You can go
okay.
and follow him on X. And he does all sorts of things like comment on how very, very sensible people like Dr. Terry Simpson aren't, for
Mm.
example. You might have seen him on my channel a few weeks back. He came on to tell me all about the LDL, though.
Oh yeah,
It
okay.
didn't go well for him. Didn't go
No,
well for him at all.
I wouldn't expect it to, no.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a very, very long way of getting around saying I've got no problem with raw dairy so long as a person doesn't react negatively to it. I think, it's very individual. Go for it. Same with
Yeah.
eggs and
Mm,
dairy in general, plus or minus. So, I mean, I always say, look, a person's diet ought to be, ideally, I think, 80% muscle meat, not organs,
mm,
muscle meat and associated fat, preferably large ruminant, 80%,
yeah.
20% discretionary, seafood, poultry, pork, whatever else.
Mm,
And as little plant material, recreational drug taking like caffeine as you can achieve.
yeah.
Salt to instinct and taste, water to thirst, and all of that. Amount of
Mm,
food, again, instincts are pretty good once you've been clean from carbohydrates for a few months.
yeah, yeah.
And if your instinct is raw and that you digest that well, that sits well with you, that makes you feel good, awesome. If your
Mm,
instinct is cooked, even if that's well done, fine, no problem.
yeah.
And I think that's the right approach, personally.
Okay.
But if someone says, well, what are your references? Well, over half a century of experience, and like, I think it's about 14 or maybe 15 years of 90% carnivore, give or take.
Mm,
So I've had the experience of both for significant numbers of years.
yeah.
I would
Okay.
never go back to the kind of diet full time that I used to consume before I was basically carnivore. I
Absolutely,
say
yeah.
I say full time because recently, like a month or two ago, my sister and a couple of nieces arrived to live permanently and work here on the farm.
Okay.
And they're not carnivores. And my sister started making all the stuff that mum used to make that we used to love when we were kids. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, okay, yep, yep. So in the last couple of months, it's been appalling. It's been really bad. I've been
Yeah.
eating
Okay.
completely non-Christian stuff, by which I mean off-piste. But we'll get it back because Ted's watching. Ted sees all. There's one eye. Yes, I see all. Ha ha ha.
Gotta watch out for that,
Good
Ted.
old Ted. You got to watch out for Ted. He's a hard taskmaster.
Yeah.
So there's that. So yeah, dairy, fine, all good.
Okay.
Eggs, fine. Salt,
Yeah.
fine. What's
See, I
not
wanna.
fine is piles and piles of plants,
Yeah.
heaps and heaps of sugar, lots and lots of processed junk, food colorings, preservatives, all of that stuff. Not fine.
Mm, absolutely.
Coffee, not ideal. Alcohol, shocking, but I do that too from time to time.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I mean, I play cricket in the summer, and so that's what you get at the break, isn't it? You just get junk because
yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
brings carbs and biscuits and
Mm-hmm.
soft drinks and all the garbage.
That's
I'm not
right.
saying I take all of that in, but there it is. All right, so that's that. What else should we talk about while we're here?
So I wanted to ask you, do
Mm,
you think that diet that you mentioned of 80% ruminant
mm,
meat
mm.
would be ideal for everybody everywhere around the world, in every part of the world?
I think mostly. Obviously, there is exceptions to every rule. There are some
Mm.
people, for example, who might have suffered the indignity of an alpha-gal attack, which is what occurs when you get bitten by the Lone Star
Oh yeah,
tick,
yeah. No,
and
yeah,
that
for
causes
sure.
you to artificially develop like really bad reactions to red meat, allergic reactions to red meat, which can be very serious.
Yeah.
There is a thought that that was manufactured on purpose and it's not a natural thing, and I
I'm a
wouldn't be
subscriber to
surprised.
that.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised either if that's true.
Mm.
And I wonder if his name rhymes with Smill Bates or something like that, the bloke that might have been involved in funding
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Rope is cheap, by the way, in unrelated news. I think there are a number of people existing in the world today who I think should find out how cheap rope is. Purely because I'm concerned about how much people might be spending on rope, nothing else. People need to
yeah,
understand
of
how cheap
course.
rope is and how good it is at holding loads for a short period.
Loads of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying rope is cheap. Um, yeah, and a number of people, yeah. And some of them, still hold positions of elevated power and influence over, Anyways, in fact, one of them, a particularly hideous horse-faced bitch from New Zealand, apparently is house shopping over there in your part of the world. She used to run the show over here.
Oh,
Her name is
okay.
Jacinda Ardern.
I haven't heard of that.
She used to be the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and
Okay.
she presided over the most draconian, contraindicated, illegal, anti-humanist
Hmm.
period of completely ignoring people's human rights that's ever existed, I think, in any
Okay.
country.
Worse
Worse than
than
Canada, Stan.
worse than Albanese as well.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Worse than what they did in
Wow.
Victoria.
Oh,
Yep,
wow.
yep.
Okay.
Anyways, there was that.
Hmm.
There's one example of a bloke who attempted to quite legally, according to his human rights, leave a place that he was told that he had to stay in, a quarantine facility.
Okay.
And the way the New Zealand police reacted to that was they shot him.
Of course. Yeah.
Awesome.
That
Good.
checks out.
Yeah. And there was also a bunch of people that protested the whole shebang, not just the shooting of this bloke, but the whole what was going on, by camping on the lawn of the Parliament buildings here in New Zealand,
Okay.
which is their legal right to do. It's
Yeah.
public property.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's owned by the people, and they have the right to assemble there and peacefully protest, which is what they were doing.
Hmm.
So the cops came through with tear gas and rubber bullets and truncheons and stuff after a week or two.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
basically,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, that was
Wow.
Jacinda Ardern. Yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway, she apparently, because she's so hated here now and can't walk down the street without being abused, which, quite rightly so.
Yeah.
She's one of those ones that should find out about rope as far as I'm concerned. She's gone to Australia now. You can have her. You're
Right.
welcome to
I'm
her.
so glad that
Mm.
she's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
You'll
a blessing.
recognize her because she's a hideous, ugly horse-faced bitch. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
I believe the same kind of thing happened when um there was a group of National Socialists. They pulled up to the Parliament House a few months ago,
Mm.
and there was tear gas and rubber bullets involved, I
Yeah.
think.
Mm.
So it's just
That same
crazy
playbook.
world.
Same playbook. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's Wellington, New Zealand, or whether it's Canberra, ACT, or whether it's, in Canada stand somewhere,
Hmm.
or, the European Union are trying the same thing. Things have got, even far worse than that in the UK, but that's again for another day. That's a whole
Yeah.
situation. Oh, yeah.
It's all
Okay.
the same
Right.
people at the end of the day.
Well, it is. It's the globalist regime that wants to
Yeah.
reset the world and wipe out 90% of the population and all of this.
Hmm.
Apparently, so I'm told. I don't know. I'm just a bloke with a teddy bear. Mm,
All right. What do you think about the Inuit, for example? If they were
mm,
to eat your recommended diet of 80% ruminants, would they
mm.
be healthier
Okay.
than they are
Right.
now?
Yeah. Look, I think here's the thing. This 80% ruminant animal thing being ideal for most people around the world under most circumstances is based on the nitrogen 1415 isotope testing,
Yeah.
which suggests that all human skeletal remains over about 11, 12,000 years old, i.e., before the agrarian revolution, any of
Sorry,
these
you cut
found.
out there for a second, about
Okay,
like 5 seconds.
okay, right. So, any human skeletal remains found anywhere around the world
Hmm.
that are over the age of the agrarian revolution, so over about 11 or 12,000 years old,
Okay.
any of those found anywhere around the world to any age up to well over 100,000 years old, all agree in terms of the nitrogen 1415 isotopes found in the collagen from those long bones.
Hmm.
It's about a 5% range around the world. And it
Okay.
all says, 80% plus or minus 5%
Hmm.
ruminant animal meat and associated fat was the diet.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the rest, basically fibrous tubers.
Mm.
Okay. The Inuit are a special case in that they have had a genetic drift away from the rest of the human population, in that they geographically separated themselves and went and lived in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
As such, there have been some genes that have been affected by positive and negative selection pressures in such a way as to necessitate they have a slightly different diet.
Mm. Okay.
They need a lot more omega-3.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are also much less adept at producing
Producing
ketones.
ketones. Yeah.
They have a different metabolic pathway that is the methodology by which they supply energy in a parallel pathway.
Okay.
So as such, it would seem to me that an Inuit would be best on a diet of 80% seafood, seal meat, whale meat, and blubber, because that's what they've evolved on for a number of generations. That's enough that it's that's the way it is. So, you know,
Okay.
bloody well.
Can you tell me about this metabolic pathway? I'm not aware of this.
It's one that's quite apocryphal. It's not really understood very well at all.
Okay.
And there are a lot of proposed reasons why the ketone thing has been knocked down. And a lot of the antithesis in the Church of Anorexia Vegana, for example, like to point to that as, well, there's a reason that shows you that ketogenesis is bad for you because the Inuits have knocked it out, sort of thing.
Sure.
It seems to be more an adaptation to the cold environment than anything else, but the exact... I mean, I've read the paper about it. I don't know how many times, half a dozen times at least. And I'm no dummy. I'm a quick study.
Yeah, I can tell.
And I've read this paper a number of times, and I still don't get what the hell those authors were trying to say exactly.
Okay.
And I think it's because those authors didn't really know either. It was very speculative. So not really, that we can't really tell you what's going on there.
Okay.
Other than the genes involved in ketogenesis are vastly downregulated in that population.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about how their higher like polyunsaturated fat consumption kind of loosens the coupling around the mitochondrial membrane, which kind of leads to more heat production?
Yeah, I mean, that's feasible.
Would you say that would be an appropriate environmental adaptation for like if someone from the US, like say Florida, if they were born in Florida, if they were to move to the Arctic Circle, and would you recommend they have that kind of diet too because of that?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, a person is born with a certain genetic makeup, and that genetic makeup is determined by the genes of their forebears wherever they lived in the world. And what with people being quite so transient in the world, a person might be born in Florida, but their genes for the last 10 or 15 generations might have been somewhere completely different from Florida.
Yeah.
So the place of birth isn't really the thing. I guess what you're meaning is someone who comes from a gene set that was relatively tropical, shall we say, that suddenly moves to the Arctic. What's going to happen to that individual is they're going to suffer.
Of course.
I don't think their diet will make a huge difference.
Okay.
I mean, yes, you could say that encouraging more uncoupled respiration in the mitochondria by whatever means, and there are a number of ways you can do it, leading to a loss of energy production per se in favor of the production of heat, might be a survival thing, sure, and that could well happen. But it's not going to change the genes of that person because they're set at birth.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All
right. Other questions for me?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, if there are not, that's fine. What I would like to say is, look, it's very gratifying, and it's always very gratifying to speak to young people who are robust enough in their own intelligence and thought processes to be able to question that which is being rammed down their throats by the powers that be, who want to tell them all sorts of ridiculous anti-scientific claptrap based on nothing more than theology and bought and paid for, I guess, desires.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm very pleased to meet you. I'm very pleased to talk to you, a person who gets it, that we do not need plants, we do not need fiber, we do not need sugar, we do not need carbohydrates. Yes, you can be an athlete without carbohydrates. Yes, you can kick ass as an athlete without carbohydrates. I mean, I was working with the All Blacks a bit in 2011 in their build up to the World Cup that year. And I can tell you that there were 4 of those All Blacks in that squad who were carnivores at that time.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
At the
That's
top level of
funny
sport.
because I had a debate with vegans recently, more of a conversation, and they brought up a point that all of these top athletes are vegan, and as if they are actually vegan in the first place instead of it just being for money. But that's funny because actually, like a lot of I assumed and had heard that a lot of top athletes are actually carnivore.
They are, and I'll tell you why you don't hear about it. Because once an athlete is properly adapted to carnivore, not only do they perform as well, they perform better.
Yeah.
It's their advantage. So they're not going to scream it from the rooftops. They're going to keep it to themselves.
I
mean, okay, those 4 All Blacks are an example. I have another client who is a recently retired MMA athlete, carnivore.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do high intensity fighting without carbohydrates, can you? Apparently you can.
Yeah, you can actually.
Other clients that I've had in the past include, the Royal Australian Defence Force.
Oh, wow.
For example.
Yeah.
The New Zealand SAS I've worked with, as in, the top echelon scary mofos.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you that they are very, very interested, or were at the time I was working with them anyway. I've gone on to other things now. I'm no longer working in academia, no longer doing that kind of consultancy so much. I'm more a social media influencer, numpty farmer, one-on-one consultant to those that want second opinions on things, and marketer of the fine cereal products these days. So that's what I'm doing these days. But I can tell you from experience of having worked in all of those other industries that these imbeciles telling you all the best athletes in the world are all carved up is not true. It simply is not correct. It's false.
100%.
Yeah, cool. All righty. Well, as I say, good to meet you, and very nice to talk to young people who've got their heads screwed on, and stay in touch. If there's anything I can help you with in terms of, if you've got a tough nut to crack, or you get into an argument that you don't know how to deal with, or you want someone to sit in on a debate, even as a moderator or whatever, or if you want me to, or if you want me to smash some vegan for you that desperately wants smashing, I've got a long history of that too.
Yeah, I saw the one you did with Mr. Richard.
Oh my God, what an imbecile!
Hey,
I knew he was going to be, but
you should watch the one he did recently with Face IQ. It was hilarious.
I've heard that.
It was hilarious.
Apparently he completely rage quit.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Very funny.
There it is. Yeah.
It was great to meet you.
Richard, you really are a dick. Yes, good to meet you too, Marcus. An absolute pleasure.
Richard.
What we'll do is I'll do a little bit of editing just to make sure the sound quality's up to it. I'm struggling a bit because I've had to move my studio out to a metal box in the yard.
Okay, like a shipping crate.
Yeah, exactly. Just like reason being because we've had to accommodate more people in the house.
Oh yeah.
Than was previously the case, and so it's all a bit of doing my best to sound treat it as best as possible and use a bit of AI to clean it up and stuff. So we'll do a bit of that and make sure it looks half decent.
Awesome.
And and then we'll post it up online, and hopefully there's some cross-pollination where some of your people can come and sub to me and my people can go and sub to Marcus.
Yeah, that would be
social media. Where do they find you? How do they sub to your channels and all of that?
Yeah, it's Marcus Young, 2 Ys on every platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely.
All right. Good.
Good chat.
Thanks for that. All right. Likewise.
Bye-bye.
See you then. Ciao.